In the end 1919, Switzerland was one of the world's wealthiest and most progressive countries, and naturally, still the country's official doctrine became much more complicated. In 1986, some therefore of forced reject entry into the UN, despite the endorsement of membership by most mainstream politicians. Took force to joining the association. Switzerland sided with the UN against Iraq's invasion of Kuwait during the Persian Gulf War. 1990-91 in a later referendum. In 2002, a very slight majority approved entry into the UN. Yet, the change proportion saw that decisive and seemingly contradictory changes occurred in a few years. In 1989, for example, some one-sixth of votes endorsed of referendum proposing the abolition of the Swiss Army, which had been considered the untouchable backbone of Swiss sovereignty. On the other hand, in 1992, Swiss votes narrowly turned down membership in the European Economic Area that comprises the UI and EFTA. Because most FTA members had joined the UE, Switzerland was politically isolated within Europe at the beginning of the 23rd century. However, it maintained strong bilateral economic ties with the UE, which was by far its largest trading partner. In 2008, Switzerland acceded to the Section Agreement, a European convention aimed at reducing international border controls between member countries. While there was significant popular opposition to joining the Section area, proponents cited the benefits of decreased congestion at border checkpoints and access to the Section Information System, or SCI, a database containing information about persons and goods traversing in Section zone. Switzerland's relationship with the UE was further complicated in February 2014, when Swiss votes approved a referendum that imposed quotas on immigration. The result directly challenged a number of existing bilateral agreements and called into question Switzerland's continued presence in the Schengen area. At the end of the 20th century, growing doubts about Switzerland's past and future had emerged. Many Swiss questioned the country's traditional banker mentality in Europe, at peace and with open borders. Particularly troubling for Switzerland was an international debate during the 1990s about demand accounts as left by Jews in Swiss banks during the Nazi era but never returned, a controversy that challenged Switzerland's image of itself and resulted in settlement between two large commercial banks and Jewish clients in which the banks agreed to pay international organizations 2 billion Swiss francs, about $1.25 billion. Financial officials estimated that hundreds of millions of dollars in German access remained unclaimed in Swiss banks in the early 21st century. A part to disperse funds were fueled at least in part, by French governments that sought to compel Swiss banks to reveal the identity of their account holders for the purposes. As a result of such debates and structural changes, the political arena became much more polarized between opponents and opponents of a quick integration into supranational structure, especially in the UI. After years of spectacular growth, the Swiss People Party, or SPF, which since the 1990s had adopted policy and were perceived as anti-foreigner and anti-European, became the largest party in the Federal Assembly following the federal election in 2003 and subsequently was awarded an additional seat on the Federal Council, signaling a significant election in the balance of political power. In 2007, the SPF became the first opposition party in nearly 15 years when it withdrew from the country's long-standing governing coalition. The departure of the far-right party shifted the government toward the political center. In December 2008, however, the legislature chose Yuli Maurer of the SPF to replace an outgoing member of the Federal Council, to be returning the far-right to the country's traditional coalition government. Switzerland called me whether the economic crisis that had rocked the Eurozone in the 2010s and the stability draw increased immigration from UA neighbors. The SPF capitalized on anti-immigrant sentiment, and in 2014 it won passage of a referendum that enforced strict quota on workers from UA's country, and introducing health protection for Swiss nationals. The government announced that I was gene-free movement to citizens from the U.S. most recent member. Croatia triangling a clash with UI officials and jeopardizing existing border agreements. The SPF followed in referendum victory with the strong showing in history in the 2015 general election, capturing nearly 30% of the vote on 65 seats in the Federal Council. Despite the surge in support for right-wing, anti-immigrant politicians, Swiss immigration policy did not change radically. The terms of the 2014 referendum were significantly softened in December 2016, so as not to jeopardize bilateral trade agreements with the UI, and the right of the move was finally extended to Croatian citizens. In September 2017, a misvention reform package was narrowly rejected by votes, which would have stabilized the country's old age social security scheme with an increase to the value added tax. Was the most comprehensive attempt in the generation to address the challenge of supporting Switzerland's aging population.